Move to the north of our borders now. Zimbabwe introduced electricity power cuts with the country's main hydropower station at Lake Kariba hard hit by falling water levels. Many areas in the country are now having to go without power for up to 8 hours and sometimes more a day. Business has warned that these blackouts could worsen the country's economic woes. All of this against the backdrop of soaring inflation and shortages of some basic goods, including fuel. John Robertson is an economist in Zimbabwe and he joins me now via Skype from Harare. John, thanks very much indeed for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
All right, John. So it just seems that these problems that Zimbabwe is facing just never end. These rolling blackouts, this is all to do with low dam levels at Lake Kariba. Is that the case?
That is the case. We've installed new capacity on Kariba, both on the Zambian side and the Zimbabwe side. So we've been using the water more quickly. We're running the lake lower through the additional turbines. And so I think that they've miscalculated here and they have run the water out of the lake faster than it's coming in. And by this stage in the year, the water level should be rising, but it is actually still falling.
And there's still questions about maintenance issues with the plant as well.
The maintenance purpose of the new turbines was to permit maintenance to be carried out on the existing turbines without reducing the power generated. But unfortunately, they've decided to use all the turbines at the same time. So the original purpose of the additional turbines was to make the maintenance more efficient. And they seem to have lost their way on that one.
All right, so what the effect is Zimbabweans across the country are without power, sometimes for 8 and even longer hours per day. This must be a huge blow for business and industry in general.
It certainly is. It's badly reducing the levels of efficiency, which were already poor because we've not been updating the plant and equipment throughout the manufacturing sector. And agriculture is badly affected now. This is the year, this is the time of the year when we plant the wheat. So the wheat farmers are currently planting the seed. They would like to irrigate, have rain at this time of the year, so they need to sustain irrigation. Now, irrigate the wheat crop, it will die. We've got much lower levels of efficiency. And the mining sector is badly affected because if you've got mine workers underground, so working on electricity, you can't mine workers down if the hoists are not working. Go back to the surface if the hoists are not working. So they also need lighting and ventilation. Efficiency is badly damaged in every sector of the economy.
All right, so, half of it then is self-inflicted then. If, you're using all the turbines when you shouldn't be, this planned maintenance is not going to be done as efficiently as it should have been. So some of these issues are within the control of the powers that be, but they just seem to be making the wrong choices.
They're taking far too long to make decisions. We've had plans to build additional thermal power stations for some time, and they have not gone ahead. Some of these will give us an electricity surplus, and by now we could have had several new power stations up and running, but the fact that they would not make the decision to go ahead with the projects. They also have plans to add to the Wangi power station. This is a coal-fired power station. They keep speaking of the need to start the made little progress on that as well. We also have power stations in Harare and Bulawayo. These are very dated, they're not running efficiently, but the railway system needed to take coal to the power stations in Bulawayo and Harare. The railway services are very poor and they've not been adequate enough to sustain steady electricity production in these two city power stations. So we've got a whole host of separate problems, and none of them is receiving the attention they need.
Perhaps finally, if you could just give us an update on the economy in general. Since the Reserve Bank governor introduced this new monetary policy in February, Zimbabwe effectively has a currency now, but this has seen inflation soaring, prices really crippling the ordinary consumer. What is the state of play in Zimbabwe? Are things continuing to get worse in terms of inflation and an economy not growing as fast as it needs to?
Well, we think the economy is actually shrinking now because of these difficulties. Inflation is certainly rising, and one of the most serious problems here is the exchange rate. The new currency that they've declared to be in operation now is a virtual currency. There's no notes, it's all electronic money in the banks. But its exchange rate is not consistent. The government said they'd allow a market-related exchange rate to develop just from the forces of supply and demand, but the demand for foreign currency is much greater than the supply, and the market would actually push the figure to a much weaker exchange rate for this RTGS dollar that we're using, but the authorities are trying to prevent that from happening. We all know that when it gets to a weaker exchange rate, the inflation will rise further, but we think that maybe the market would generate the right conditions to determine what would be used, what would be bought with the money that is available. And I think if the market were able to take over completely, we'd come to better decisions than are being made by the Reserve Bank, apparently interfering with the exchange rate mechanism and allowing a black market rate to continue in existence. And it's the black market rate which is really setting the price levels now. These could go much higher because the scarcity element could drive the black market rate to a much more serious, weaker figure for the RTGS dollar. And of course that would cause prices to rise even more steeply. So we could well be into a 50, 60, 70% inflation rate, maybe even rising to 100% annual if we are not careful. And we need desperately access to much more foreign currency, but the country's lost its ability to borrow because we have so many unpaid debts, and we've lost so much of our productive capacity that we can't earn our way out of the debt that we're in. What we desperately need now is foreign investors to bring money to the country, but the country, I'm afraid, is the source of so many uncertainties that the investors feel a lack of confidence, which is preventing them from making investment decisions right now. So it is a very bad collection of serious problems.
All right, John, that's where we're going to have to leave it. Thanks so much indeed for your insights. Always great to have you on the program. Thank you so much.